Hi everybody, welcome back to my studio. I'm Mary Rose Feldman. I'm an artist and a certified Zentangle teacher, and we're going to have a little fun today with a small zendala. For those who don't know, a zendala is just round, that's all. It's what we call a round tile to work with, but you can use whatever paper, whatever tools, pens, anything you want. Please make this tile your own, especially with what we're going to do today. So I'm super excited to tangle with you. Thank you for being here. Let's go ahead and get started. As we always do, we have a moment of gratitude. Just a time to center, to reconnect, to appreciate, and to just invite good thoughts into our mind. Just breathe at your own pace. Everybody has their own way of beginning their Zentangle practice or their creative practice. I'm noticing places in my body that might be tense. And when I exhale, I invite them to just release their tension. I think of the same thing if I have a thought that's running through my mind, a worry, a tension, a harsh criticism. I'm going to just release all of those for now. We don't need to problem solve things, and there's no judgment. Just acknowledgement. Nice, good, deep breath. Today's affirmation: each pen stroke brings me joy. Have your own moment of gratitude. Come on back when you're ready to tangle. There's our affirmation card today from my affirmation deck. And let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to tangle a pattern today. I'm just going to use a pen. I usually show everybody the pen I'm using for practice. It doesn't really matter, but I'll try to put my pen under screen so you can see what I'm using. Please use whatever makes you happy. No judgment. Okay, we're doing a tangle pattern today called Courant. And this is by Headquarters. And it's a super fun, relaxing tangle. Essentially, you make this squiggly thing, and it can be anything you want. Okay? Literally, like when we talk about strings or whatever, but we're making these sections. And then what we're going to do in all of these sections is aura. So there's two ways you can aura. One is to aura the section and aura, all disconnected. That gives you a different look. I think the original Courant auras like this, where you go all the way around and then keep going all the way around. Until you get to the center. I've seen both ways. You just get two different ways, two different looks of the tangle. I believe this is the way it was originally designed. Right? It's that simple. You just keep going to any section that you created, and you aura until you get to the center. Okay, so our tile today is this. And I want to say something about when I show the tile ahead of time. If you don't know, we don't pre-plan our Zentangle tiles when we do this. We let the pen strokes kind of guide. We'd go by one pen stroke at a time, and how they end up is the way they're supposed to be. But I do understand that you want to add some of your own flair. You might want to do something different. You don't want to impact something that's coming up. So I don't mind showing the tile ahead of time, but what I ask is that you do not have the image of this in front of you when you tangle, because it changes your pen stroke and it changes your focus. You want to focus on your tile and your pen stroke, not trying to copy what I'm showing you. This is just an example. The one I do today is going to be different because I'm not going to have this exact same pen strokes in here. It's a different day. Okay, so that's my only request when I show you something ahead of time. Okay, so that's where we're going. Like I said, I'm working on circle, but a zendala, circle, whatever you want to, but this can be square, this can be a journal, doesn't matter. So the first thing we want to do is pencil in our word. I chose the word thankful, but you can use any word you want in here, whatever inspires you. I'm going to take my pencil and I am going to come in here, and I want this pretty big. I might have gone too big. Okay, I think I'll go with that. I'm a little to the right, but that's okay. Make sure I spell it right. Thankful. Okay. And once you have your word in there, we're also going to pencil in a circle with an aura. Now here's my tip with making a circle. You can absolutely use a template if you want. But here's my tip if you want to freehand a circle. I'm getting my writing hand, and this is still with pencil, I'm getting my writing hand in position, and I'm air drawing the arc. So here's the arc that I'm going to make. And notice I'm turning the paper for my natural arc. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pencil in that arc, not move my hand. I'm going to turn my paper and I'm going to let my hand do that same arc without moving. So my pencil stroke hasn't changed because I haven't moved my wrist. I kept it right there. So I'm going to move my tile. I still air draw first, come around, turn my tile, try to keep that same arc. It's not perfect. You see me going back, and every time I go back I make a correction. Okay, and now let me look at it. To me, that's close enough. I can pull this in just a little bit. But that's close enough. So that's my tip with making a circle, is if you get your hand to get that muscle memory of making the same pen stroke and you put your paper where that pen stroke fits, it becomes enjoyable. So now it's pretty easy because all I have to do is aura. That's a little skinny. Remember, we're not aiming for perfection. If you have not heard it in my videos before, the imperfections of your hand is what makes Zentangle beautiful. So allow the imperfections to be there and embrace them. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to my pen. Come on back when you have this string ready to go. And the next thing we're going to do is trace our word. And we can make this pretty thick because we want this to stand out. And if you need to make any adjustments, now you can make the adjustments. You can see I'm pulling my letters into the left just a little bit. And I'm going to add some rounding to these letters to give them some weight. And then you can go also trace your circle. Notice I'm leaving a gap between that circle and my word. We will work on that later. All right. So I'm going to stick with my pen, and we want to come to the outside border of this, and we're going to add the current squigglies. So when you do this, you can make as big or as little sections as you want. I tend to like a little bit bigger sections depending on how my pen flows. And I'm just looking at my example here to make sure I have this right, but it's always going to be different. So what I'm going to do is just come into the border for now and just try to get, and I see how I did 2 figure eights together. I don't want it to look rhythmic, so I want to break that up. I'm just going to go off the page. These sections are too small, so I'm going to start again. I got into too much of a rhythm. And I can tell my hand's not warmed up because these are a bit too small sections. So maybe down here we'll talk about this section. We're not connecting it to the word or anything yet. All right, maybe this I'll break off off the edge. Okay, let me try this again. I was trying to go, I think, a little bit too fast. So take a breath, come in. I like to break up the loops a little bit, restart. So it doesn't have to be all one pen stroke. I tend to have better luck when I break it up. So that's a little bit better. But either way, it's going to look strange because it's all these squiggly lines. Like I said, some of them got too small. Not going to worry about it. Okay, so what we're going to do, continuing with the border, is this aura, your outer circle aura. We want to come down. Let's see how I do it. I'm going to make sure I give you a good guide. We want to come down, and this is going to aura our letter, but then also flow into a section. So see how I did that? I came down and I aura'd my letter, but then I made a little section. Same thing here. I'm going to come up and I'm going to aura. Actually, I didn't really aura, but that's okay. I just came down towards it. I was going to do a loop and I bailed on the loop for some reason. I don't know. Like I said, my hand might not be warmed up yet. Okay, so then the same thing here. I'm going to aura, come down, and then I'll just break this up. You're going to do that all the way around. So I'm auraing the letter, give it a decent aura. And then if you need to break up the section, go ahead and do that. So your outer aura circle should now be connected to auraing your letters and going into your current. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing in the center, but for the center we want to be careful that we really don't muddy up the word too much. So I'm going to aura the word first. I'm going to come down with my inside circle now, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to loosely aura the word, and I'm not going to go all the way down. We can always add more, but we don't want to muddy up the word too much just yet. Or at all. Okay, so you have something like that. So we've preserved our word. Once you preserved your word, then you can come into the sections. I can't talk and do this at the same time. And make your current loops. You can see now I'm getting a little bit better flow. I'm taking my time. I think I was going much too fast. And there we have a jumbled mess right now. We're not going to do anything inside the word just yet. I'm going to switch to a thinner pen because I want the auras inside Courant to be a little bit thinner than the edges. You see, we're going to add shading. We get brights and lights in here. We don't want it to look flat. We still want it to have some dimension, but we always want that word to pop forward. So I'm going to switch to a thinner pen. If I need to thicken anything up later, I'll do that after the fact. We are going to come into all of these sections. This is where your Zen is going to come in today. We're going to come into all of these sections and we are just going to fill with auras. Now those two sections were super tiny. That's okay. I might even go to my 01 pen, I think. Well, I have an 02. I don't have a 01 right here. All right, and then your bigger sections. So you can start off the pit tile, or you can start from another line, or you could start in the air. It doesn't matter. And I'm just going to fill in. I think it looks a little better when you're off, not as close. So if I get to a section where it's super big, like right here, I should be auraing all the way into here. It's a little bit too big. I'll just make the decision to block it off. Then when it gets too skinny, I'll stop and then I'll restart in here. Okay, so let your pen flow on this. If it's too big, make it a little smaller. If it's too tight, aura what you can. Like here's a little bit too tight. And I will color in the center section sometimes. Like right here, I'm going to just block that off. That's a little bit too big of a section. Now it gets too narrow, so I'm just going to back up. And then if this section is too big, I'll come back. So you can make different decisions based on the section, what the section needs. And that's what you're going for. So I'm going to stay pulled off of this so you can just see what I'm doing. We are just auraing. going to be really important that you keep a loose pen grip. This is definitely a tangle pattern where I am trying to be less precise. I really don't want these auras to be in perfection mode. I want them to be loose and have energy, and I don't want them to look like stripes, perfectly placed stripes in each section. So I think of this as a texture, and if my auras are wiggly, if my auras run into each other, unevenly spaced, that is all good in my eyes. So if you're having trouble with this because you're trying to make these auras really precise, I might invite you to just speed up your hand a little bit, loosen your pen grip, speed up your hand, and really let go of what this is supposed to look like as an aura and think of it as a texture. And if you're watching me aura, you're seeing lots and lots and lots of wiggly, oddly spaced, funky looking lines. They are welcome to the party. So I remind you to take deep breaths, check your pen grips and everything. I've never reminded you, I don't think, to blink. I tend to keep my eyes open and I forget to blink. And I have dry eyes already, so that's another thing. Give your eyes a rest every now and then and blink. I know this is a lot of aura-ing. It's worth it when you're done. It's a really cool, complicated looking tile. But it's really easy. Whew, okay. I gotta shake out my own hand. That was a lot of aura-ing. All right, so this is one option. You can leave, go right into shading after this and leave the thankful blank behind it and use it as a whole panel and shade behind it. What I ended up doing is doing a little bit of currant in between the letters. If you're going to do this, you have to be gentle because we don't want to obliterate the word. So leaving it just like this is perfectly fine if you like that look. And you could advance forward the video until we start to shade. If you want to do it like my sample is, in these blank areas, so my one suggestion is that you do not aura very close to the letters, because once we aura in here with currant, I'm going to thicken my letters even more to make sure that they pop forward, and we want them to have room to do that. So for example, right here, I might come in and just do just a little bit of this. I'll connect that little tail. Maybe in here I'll do just a little bit. Okay, I can decide if I want to bring in the auras a little bit closer. So like this, I think I'm going to connect here to the bottom. Maybe I'll connect from here. So see how I connected that from the edge. In here, it's pretty easy. And here I can come down. So it's really up to you whether you do this or not. This one I'm not liking. I think I'm going to do another round here. And you can do a little bit of this and hold it out, see if it's going too far. I think I'm okay with mine. And remember, we haven't gotten shading in here yet. So I think I'm good with that. I like a little bit of breath in there. And like I said, I'm going to come back in with my pen or a thicker pen, and I'm just going to thicken up my letters. Give them a little bit more weight now that I have all the current auras in. I like to do some of these thickening things as the tile goes along instead of right on the beginning, because other inspirations come along, other things flow with the tile, and I like to keep my options open. So by waiting until the tile progresses before I make some of these decisions just leaves the door open for other inspirations. That's just my approach. All right, I think that's good. Okay, so let's get some shading in on this. So I'm happy right now when you hold your tile out. What is helpful is to see the original string that we made for Courant. So remember, I did the original string in a thicker pen and I aura'd in a thinner pen. So when I look at my tile, I naturally see a thicker pen and a thinner pen. I can see where the swirls and the sections were. And those are going to be helpful because of where I shade. I'm going to try to use them a little bit as a guide to where I shade. If you can't see that pen difference, you might need to come in with a thicker pen and just make the section breaks a little bit thicker. So section breaks meaning like right here is a section. Right here is a section. Right here is a section. So you might just need to get a little bit of contrast in your pen stroke just for where you're going to do shading. And where you shade really doesn't matter. You know, obviously we don't have a light source in Zentangle, But even further, we don't have a clear top and bottom on this one. So I usually make a couple decisions. One decision I like, let me see if I could find a section. Let's say right here. If I see points and corners, I will shade along the point and the corner and then pull off to one side or another. Like right here. So that's one thing I look for that can give me an interesting depth. We're looking for depth and contrast. So notice when I blend that out, I'm still leaving a highlight. When I blend this out, I leave a highlight, and for now I'm going to leave the rest of that section empty. I could do it here lightly. I'm not going to do it on every single one. It depends on what's going on around that section. If I don't have a clear area that I want to shade, then I might just go around the edge. Of a section, and then I'll come in with the corners. So usually the first thing I do is look for corners. I'll come around. If I'm going to show you how I do this in my real personal tangling, I look for those corners, and I'm going to shade those corners first. So let me see if I can do a whole section here first. And notice I'm not giving it much thought. This doesn't have corners, so I'm just going to go right there. Even if they're loose corners, if maybe they're valleys, like we shade curves, shade one side of the curve. This one doesn't, if I have a circle-ish, I'll shade one side of the circle. There's a corner, so I'll shade a corner. All right, and then I'll come in and I'll smudge that. Oh, I missed a section over there. Oh well. I'll smudge that around. You can see I'm going into some sections with just the graphite that's on my tortillon. And then I would hold that out and see how much more I want to do. But there's really not a right or wrong way to do this. Where you can get into trouble, I just went the wrong way there on the graphite. I should have spread it the other direction. So I lost my little highlight there, but it's okay. I've got plenty of other stuff going on. And you're just going to work your way around. Now what we are going to do is shade the inside of that circle. So the inside here. So if you want to do that first, just to get you your bearings. And we're going to shade the outside of that circle. Right where it went around the letter, I went a little too far there. Okay, and I'll go ahead and smudge that. For those who did not do any currant in their word, and even if you did do currant, we're going to shade the bottom and the top of the word to help lift that area off the tile. So it might help if you do those sections first. So the inside and the outside of the circle, and then around your word. And then you can see what parts of currant you want to add shading to. Really is personal preference. I want to make sure I guide you with the steps, but also allow you to just make this your own. And you can even stop there. If you don't want to shade currant at all, you could just stop there. So I'm going to go ahead and shade different sections of my currant. And then we'll talk about adding some shading around the lettering, and this one will be done. This is when all these small sections that I made on my border can be a bit tedious. I am not going to spend too much time getting shading in there. you have bigger sections in Courant and you can spend more time shading to get the dimension you need, that's great. I ended up with super tiny sections for this one, so there wasn't a whole lot aside from those corners. It was pretty chaotic in there. All right, I'm going to leave it like that. So the last thing I'm going to do on this, and you can adjust your aura around your word however you want, but the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the lines of the letters, and whenever I can, I'm going to put shading to the right only of a line. So on this line right here, I'm going to put the shading on the right. This line's kind of horizontal. I could put a little shading there, but that's about it. Maybe a little there. Anywhere that I can put shading to the right of the line only. So I have a little bit there. You can do all the major, the easy ones. Once the line curves and you're no longer on the right side, then I stop. Like right here, it curves, and now I'm not on the right side of the line anymore, so I stop my shading. And this got a, oops, I probably shouldn't have done that. Oh well. Okay, and then I'll smudge out to the right of the line. And that pops it just even a little bit more. So I have some dark sections in the aura around my word. I'm just going to smudge them a little bit to dull them down just a hair. They're a little bit too bright for me. All right. And if you have Courant inside your word that still looks a little too bright, you can shade inside there. So perspective on this really helps. When you hold this out, it's going to say, is my word standing out enough? Is there an area that's too bright and needs a little bit of contrast with shading, or you know, vice versa? You can make those decisions by just holding out your tile. But for now, I'm going to go with this. You might say, where do you put your chop on here? So I'm going to show you that I'm just going to put my chop over the aura lines, and I'm just going to make it thick enough that it appears. And then we'll sign on the back. Whenever you put the date of whenever you're watching this, and there it is, always thankful. All right, take a nice good deep breath. Have a moment of gratitude. I am always grateful that you are here and tangling with me at whatever time of day, whatever time of year. I'm super thankful that you took time to tangle with me today. I hope you come back, and I hope we get to do it soon. Again soon. You know what I mean. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.